Abhishek Sharma from me, Hrishikesh, and everybody at 94.3 Radio 1. Congratulations on a super film that's made and that's still making money at the box office. How does it feel?
Thank you, Rishi. I mean, it's amazing because more than the money, what I'm liking is the way people are reacting to it at various levels. I mean, the response is so emotional, and people are feeling. You can genuinely see the pride in their eyes, and the way they're reacting, clapping. So this is the first for me. So I really appreciate it, and I really cherish it.
I cannot believe you're the same guy who made Tere Bin Laden. Simply because there is no connection. There's not even an 19-20 ka connection. And I think that's a huge compliment to you as a director, that people can't associate a film that you're best known for with your most recent work. What kind of a person are you? I mean, are you more of an introverted recluse? Are you somebody who's into comedy cinema? What kind of movies do you fundamentally like?
No, I am an introvert, but I my thing is that I'm not, as a viewer also and as an artist also, I'm not limited to any genre, even in music, because you're from the radio. I listen to all kind of music. I see all kind of films. There's no genre which I don't like. I like all genres. I can watch a horror, I can watch a rom-com, I can watch a drama and enjoy it, because they're like Navrasas in our Natya Shastra theory, and I believe in that. So this film in a way is also kind of liberating, because I'm coming out of that image, and now audience will not put me in any particular box. So I think this film is as out of the box as Tere Bin Laden was at its time. So it feels good, and I want to try different kind of genres. Like one of my favorite filmmakers, Stanley Kubrick, has made classics in every genre. So I really want to try and make different kind of films. What is most important is that the story should excite you. So then whichever genre it is, it doesn't matter.
So did you first come to John to pitch a comedy film to him? Is that how it all started, or was that the plan and then Parmanu happened in some other way? Tell us about the making of it.
It's actually funny. John pitched me a script. So John had seen Tere Bin Laden 2, and he pitched me a film which was a comedy. So I came, I read the script, and I didn't connect that much with it. So I honestly told him that I didn't like the script, and usually people are not honest. I don't know, I just thought that I should be honest with him. So I just told him I don't like the script. He said, so you should not flog the dead horse. I said, yeah, whatever. And he said, but I love Tere Bin Laden, and I'm used to getting compliments for Tere Bin Laden. So I was like, yeah, thank you. And then he was talking about Tere Bin Laden, and he said, and Obama's rap was amazing. I said, but hold on, but that's Tere Bin Laden 2, and nobody ever told me about Tere Bin Laden. Nobody saw Tere Bin Laden 2. It was a big disaster. So he was talking about Tere Bin Laden 2. I said, John, that's TBL 2. He said, part 1 bhi hai. I said, obviously, if there's a 2, there's a part 1. What are you doing? He said, but I'm a big fan of that film. And then that broke the ice, and we were jamming and we were talking. I went back home, and that night I'm thinking that, I have this story, Parmanu, which I had thought of 3-4 years back, because it was like an espionage story, that how Indian scientists and all fooled the CIA. I had just met John, and I was like, he is perfect to play Ashwath Rana, the principal character. And then I came back to him after a few days, and I said, now can I pitch something to you? And he said, okay. And he was also expecting a comedy maybe, but then when I narrated this, he just jumped. He said, let's do this. And that's how it happened.
This thing about the blind spot between two satellites, did that actually happen, or was that the fictional part of the story? So that I found it very fascinating.
No, that's what happened, because there were 2 or 3 lacrosse satellites which were orbiting around, and because the satellite, it cannot remain on one side of Earth all the time. It's orbiting, right? So the other satellite will take its position, then the third. It's an overlap. So there will be a gap, because it cannot be so precise that as that one has gone, this one has come in. There is a gap, and which happened in real life, that they knew that there would be a gap when the satellite is not there. So those few hours is when they would work. This happened in real life, and before the satellites come back, they would just cover up everything, and so everything looked normal, to the American analysts, and that's how they did it, and that's how we showed it.
What I also loved is the fact that there are layers to the story which also involve the CIA, which has the photographer Mark Bennington playing a CIA agent, and then you also had somebody who was a representative of the ISI, which is Pakistani intelligence. And then suddenly I said, if the CIA was involved, then maybe ISI was involved too. So just to get all the layers of the story correct, can you tell me about your consultants, the people who helped you on the script per se in terms of the research?
So basically there were 2 parts of it. One was research. One of my assistants, Karishma, she was in charge of research. So she would get out stories from all the places, whether it was from books, libraries, the internet. There are some sources that you can find out, in the free media, which could be right and could be wrong. So we had to check them, cross cross-check them. But we had this whole information that she would bring to me. And then we met people who were involved with the test directly or indirectly. And I would cross-check that. And then, we would know that, okay, this is what the information is. And then we would take that information and analyze that how we can incorporate it in the story, how it affects the screenplay, and, how to tell it in a simple way, in an entertaining way. So that was the whole process. And it has so many layers, like you rightly said. There's a scientific point of view, which is about the fission and fusion, the nuclear bombs, how many bombs, how they were tested, how do you contain the nuclear explosion, how a nuclear explosion happens. The second thing is the army's role, the logistics, and how army would do it, and how we fooled the American satellites, how the cover-up happened. The third layer is the politics of it, that how politically what was the climate, internal politics and external politics, which was a coalition government. Apart from that, there's an external pressure, that where India stood. We were very different from where we are today. In 95, 98, that's the period of the film, India was isolated because USSR was no longer there to protect us. It had disintegrated. We were a lonely nation, getting pressurized from America and other Western countries to sign CTBT, NPT. Pakistan had very close friendship with China and America. Both, these emerging, one is a superpower, one is an emerging superpower. In all that atmosphere, India had to do something, and that's why Vajpayee ji's government did this. Before that, in 95, Narasimha Rao ji's government also tried, but we failed because the satellites caught us, and that's gave us the lesson for 98, that how we do it, and that's how they figured the blind spot theory, and that's how we did it.
Yeah, I, for example, didn't even know that there was a plan which didn't go through in 95. That's another thing that this movie opened its eyes out to me. The fact that Dr. Kalam, fine, he was the president of India, we're so proud of him, but the fact that he was one of the earliest father of this particular nuclear bomb, and is obviously a huge figure for us Indians, and he features prominently in it. And I'm so happy that you used Atal Bihari ji's original footage as well as Abdul Kalam Saab's original footage. At any point did you think you should have a character playing these Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Abdul Kalam? It's a peculiar question. I don't think any journalist would have asked you this, but I'm just thinking.
Yeah, no, never, because I think nobody can do justice, and that's the reason when you watch the film and you see the real photos or the real footage, you get connected. One is authenticity, you get connected. Secondly, you can't get the same feeling if some actor is playing it. It completely degrades the whole character. I think because it's not a biopic, it's a true story, and you want to give people that feeling that you're watching something which is real, and you're in that space, you're in that time, in that space. So when you see Vajpayee ji's speeches, or when you see Kalam Saab's pictures, and it gives you a feeling which cannot be replicated by getting an actor to play those characters. Then it would be mimicry. I don't think that in this subject matter that would have done justice.
But at the same time, I mean, you can't take those, speaking like a true Tambram, true Madrasi, you can't take those 4 or 5 Madrasis from the space organizations and just put them there. So you had to have a Diana who's again fairly deglammed, the fact that she's in these trousers and shirt and things like that. So her part in this whole ensemble cast, a very important part. Talk to me about that. Were there any other contenders for this role, or did you just want Diana for this?
Either I wanted a complete new face, or I thought of Diana because I had seen Happy Bhag Jayegi. It was a very different film, but I saw a certain kind of charm in her face, and the way she looks, she looks very credible as a character. You believe in it, you want to believe, and she has not done too many films. She's not overexposed also. So in the known faces, that was the only choice I had. Otherwise, I said that let's then audition. Thankfully, you went with Diana. Also, the character is important because during that time, if you take it from the real research, in the scientists and all, there was no girl, there was no lady. I wanted a girl to represent, because women are equal partners to where India is, and I wanted one character, very prominent character, to be a lady. And what is most important in this film is that the girl is not a romantic angle. The girl is not there for objectification or the dances and item songs that mostly we use unfortunately actresses for. It's a very important character, like other Pandavas. She's one of the characters. So this particular part was the only character in which I could fictionalize and I could show a girl. The reason was because when you are showing, so many people are coming together as a teamwork and they're doing such a thing, you would want a woman also to be contributing in one way or the other. And that's why this female character was created, and Diana was the right choice, I think.
So man, a lot of aspiring filmmakers listen to my show. I'm very proud of saying that. Where did you fall out of? I mean, before Tere Bin Laden, what's your background? Where did you grow up? It always fascinates me, a backstory of a director.
My father was in Air Force, so we've been around the country. I was born in Delhi, but we've been around the country, and what happens is, and maybe that reflects in the film also, that I have a actual love, faith and respect for the forces, And what happens is that that when you grow up in an armed forces background, like, Air Force, Navy, Army, we get a lot of exposure. We go to various states in the country, various Air Force stations. I've been to many schools, seen life, and also got exposed to various things. That kind of builds you up as a character. It gives you a certain kind of confidence also. Parallelly, my uncles from my mother's side, they have been very big names in theatre. Shri Mohan Maharishi, Shri Bhanu Bharti, and they have big names in Indian theatre. So I've grown up as a kid. I've seen National School of Drama's Repertory Theatre, which is one of the finest theatre in India, and especially during that time in 80s, it was at its peak. So I've seen those plays, and I've grown up on that. So these things kind of polished me. They kind of gave me a perspective. Then I started doing some theatre in school and college. In college, I made my own dramatic society. I was in College of Vocational Studies, and I knew at that time that I also wanted to get into NSD, either FTI or NSD, because they are the only two institutes at that time that I thought could shape me up. I always wanted to get into films, do theatre. So I applied in NSD. Luckily, I got in, and I learned a lot. Actually, it's one of the best institutes in India. I passed out. Then I knew while doing theatre, I knew that I want to reach out to wider audience, so I want to get into films as well. So I made some short films when I was in Delhi, and they were appreciated. And then I thought I should come to Bombay and make films. But when I came to Mumbai, I didn't want to assist anyone. I just wanted to create my own language of cinema. Didn't want to assist and get influenced. So what was important is I thought that I've made short films. I know how to make films, how to execute it. But how does the industry work? How do you get the finance? What is the business of cinema? I wanted to learn that. So I came and I started doing a job in Ad Labs Films, which was Mr. Manmohan Shetty's company. Amazing person. My immediate boss was Praveen Nishchalji, and I was doing that job. Within like a year or so, I was good in contracts. Somehow I think I was a lawyer in the past life. So I was given the legal portfolio to look into contracts, and I was good in negotiations for some reason, maybe because of my theatre background. And I became a legal manager. Like in 4 years, lawyers also would ask me for advice, the entertainment lawyers, and that was fun. But at the same time, I never forgot that I wanted to be a filmmaker. So parallelly, I wrote my first story, which was Tere Bin Laden. I pitched it in-house to Pooja Shetty, and she loved it, and she said, okay, let's make a film. That's how immediately we made this film, Tere Bin Laden, and rest is history.
Now, you don't have to give me any names, but did you pitch the Pokhran story to anybody else before John? And, was it rejected or not received as well as it was?
No, I never pitched it, but, I have some friends in the trade, like Pradyuman, who's a very dear friend of mine, and he has done Bin Laden, Tere Bin Laden, and he was the first person with whom, I bounced ideas. He also gave me a lot of inputs, a lot of ideas. Apart from that, there's Tushar Hiranandani, there is Chirag Nehlani. These are my friends from the trade who gave me a lot of inputs and discussed this story. So, I have thanked them all in my film also, but never pitched it, officially to anyone, because I thought maybe I was just holding it. In fact, Pradyuman was very encouraging. He always used to tell me, why don't you make that film? You have that film, why don't you pitch that film? And I would always say, banaunga, because sometimes you become the prisoner of your own image, that I'm a comedy filmmaker right now, so let me just focus on comedy. When Tere Bin Laden 2, flopped and it was a disaster, that's when I think, because that's what they say, sometimes failure teaches you, and I was like, okay, forget the image. If I get a, right, atmosphere, if I get a right opportunity, I should make any film. And that's when it just opened me up. And so when I met John, suddenly this, I saw Ashwath Raina in him, and I thought of pitching it to him, and that's how it happened.
It's crazy that you saw Ashwath Raina in him, because if you look at his body of work, the action genre, the cool looking, the slick looking ones are the ones that have been most successful for him. And the fact that you saw him as just a common guy, and you've helped him emote, and he said that in his chat with me, saying that you helped him underplay this whole role. It's surprising that you would see Ashwath in John. How?
See, I think there's a certain way of, looking at actors and understanding. Maybe because of my theatre background, I've worked so much with actors that I understand actors. I'm in love with actors. I love good actors. So what happens is that, like I gave you example of Diana also in Happy Bhag Jayegi. It's a completely different film, but somehow I thought she would be able to do this. Even Pradyuman, who did Tere Bin Laden, he doesn't look like Bin Laden. He's a great actor. That's why he could pull it off. But I knew that he can, and he would be able to pass off as Bin Laden. Similarly with John, when I met him, I just saw, he's a very credible guy. When you talk to him, he's saying what he means, and Ashwath Raina is that kind of a person. There's a certain sincerity in his eyes, which when Ashwath sits in that office in the PMO and says that it's time for India to become a nuclear state, he says it with complete conviction. John, when he's talking to you, he has that conviction in his eyes, which I think somewhere attracted me, and I was like, this is what we need to do. And the only thing that I helped him with, he gives me a lot of credit, but I think I just try to deconstruct him, because I think every artist, every actor can emote, and like I said, I believe in Navras. You have everything inside you. It's just about tapping it. Like even for me, I tapped it for the first time. I got out of my comfort zone. So I just helped him to get out of his comfort zone physically and mentally. Physically, because I told him to not have those muscles and just shed muscles. I wanted him to be leaner. I didn't want him to have a paunch or anything, but he can't look like a superhero, because John is, his images of a superhero, he looks like a superhero. Then it would not be convincing that a Pakistani agent is beating him. You want him to look like a everyday normal person. That's one thing. And secondly, even on emotions, I saw a lot of his work again. I kind of analyzed it and reanalyzed it, made some notes mentally, prepared a workshop chart for him, sat with him, then we did rehearsals. Idea was to just get him out of his comfort zone, and it was very easy for me, because he was so forthcoming and he surrendered completely, and kudos to him. So his performance is basically because of him. I can only direct, I can only guide, I can only tell him what is there in my head, and if I'm clear and he's ready to follow through, then it will happen. And it happened.
This particular story is obviously taken a lot out of you. This film has taken a lot to make, but also in terms of the release. Did you ever get a little frustrated or dejected that all these things were happening leading up to the court case and then finally the judgment by the Honorable High Court?
I was a bit stressed, but I was never frustrated, because somewhere you have the conviction. I had this conviction that the film will release and it will be appreciated by the audience, because I had a gut feel that if you made this film and it seems like that we have a good film, then nothing can stop it. And I kept thinking positively, and I kept telling John also that be positive, it will happen, don't worry. And both of us were standing together, and so I was never frustrated, but yeah, I was a bit stressed, more so because your film's release date can't keep getting pushed, because when that happens, somewhere the film might lose its charm, and that was my only concern. Like, actually, if you see, we have released the film within 11 months of starting the project. So problem was not that. The problem was that so many times people announced it and it kept getting pushed. That's what I was stressed about. That was the only stress. Apart from that, I was sure that once thing goes to court, the Honorable Bombay High Court is amazing. I mean, the way the justice was delivered and promptly. All credit to Justice Kathawala. I mean, he has worked so hard. He's been working so hard, and we have seen that in papers also, that he's sitting midnights and early mornings. So I was very sure that justice will be delivered. So I was never frustrated.
Where did you recreate Pokhran? Prominent shooting locations? Was it in the desert in Rajasthan?
So basically, Pokhran, the actual Pokhran range, you can't go even near that Pokhran range. But we had pictures, we had certain material and footage. We knew how the landscape was. So Jaisalmer has this place called Sam, and that place, the land is exactly like part of range. So then we identified a huge piece of land, and we made earmarked 3 areas, and we created it. It was a little tough because we did a lot of recce, because what has happened is that since 98, a lot of landscape has changed in India, whether it's the mobile towers or the windmills and other things have come up. So it's very difficult to get that big a land without anything disturbing the view. So that was a big challenge, but thanks to our local support in Jaisalmer, we found this location, and it's amazing that the people who were in this mission, the real people, they saw it and they said it looks exactly like the range.
This has been a fascinating interview, and I can't wait to see your next film. Yeah, all the best.
Thank you so much. I listen to your show every day, and I'm not just saying it. It off the record. I told you're my favorite RJ, because I only listen to your channel on the radio, not because I'm into just English music. No, I think it just makes sense. That your programs are so good, the music is so good, and it's so informative. Again, you like these kind of interviews. I just love it. I love your show. I love your radio channel, and thank you so much, and best of luck.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Cheers.